How to make some homemade baby food. Today we're going to make some apples and we're going to make some chicken. So whatever the recommendations are for your area in terms of introducing solids to your baby, go with those guidelines. We happen to be in Canada and they recommend introducing solid foods to babies at about 6 months of age. And that's the time when they're able to hold their head up, they're able to sit up on their own, and that's going to help them swallow the food and digest the food just like they need to. So we're going to start off with making some applesauce. So you're going to grab an apple, whatever is in season in your area. So we're just dicing them up into little squares. So here we've got our apples, and I'm just going to add them to the boiling water. And apples cook pretty fast, so they only need to probably boil for a few minutes. So let's go back to the table and I'll show you what to do after they're cooked. Okay, so now that the apples are cooked, or whatever fruit or vegetable or meat that you happen to be cooking, I've got some cooked apples here. They're nice and soft. I'm going to use a hand mill in order to get the apples turned into applesauce. If you have a food processor or a blender, you can definitely use that as well. So we're just going to add the apples to the mill here. I like this one because it's really easy to clean. It's not something I need to plug in, so it doesn't use up any electricity. So I'm going to just push down on here. I'm pushing down with my left hand as I turn with my right. There we go. And we can see the apples are coming through. They're all mashed up in the really good pureed consistency for baby. So with the apples, I'm going to use the ice cube tray method of freezing them. So now I'm just going to add the applesauce, that's a nice pureed consistency, into each of the cubes. And once you've got them into the cubes, you can cover the tray with saran wrap if you'd like, or just leave it without anything on top. Then what I do usually is then the next day, once it's frozen, I then put it into a bag, and that makes the tray available for the next foods that I want to freeze. So there we go. We've got some applesauce into the trays, and I'm going to put it into the freezer. So let's go over to the freezer. Hi, I happen to have a freezer that's underneath the fridge, so let's open up the little door. Then I set my ice cube tray in there to freeze, and they should be ready tomorrow. Now we're going to make some chicken for baby. I happen to have gotten a chicken thigh. If what you prefer to use is a boneless, skinless chicken breast, by all means, go ahead and do that. So I put it into a pot of boiling water, and I'm going to let that boil until it's cooked all the way through. Okay, now that we've cooked our chicken, I removed the skin, I removed the bone, and all we have left is the meat. And I cut it up into little pieces. I'm going to use my hand mill here. I chose not to use the cooking water because I boiled this piece of chicken that had skin on it, and there was a lot of grease in the water, and I didn't want to give that to my baby. So what I'm going to do is just add some water in here. So I've just added some water. I'm going to put the top on this mill, and this hand mill has the metal part smooshes the food and then pushes it through the holes that are on the white circular part. Put that into place. I'm going to push down on the hand mill as I crank it around. We're going to take a spoonful of the pureed food and plop it onto a cookie sheet, and then put the cookie sheet into the freezer and freeze the spoonfuls of food. Okay. Here we have a regular cookie sheet. We're going to take a spoonful of food, plop it onto the tray. And these are really single serving sizes for a baby who's just being introduced to solid foods. So here we've got some plops of pureed chicken. Let's go to the freezer. Put the cookie sheets in. There we go. And once those are frozen, you can just put them into a Ziploc bag. I'll get close up here. These are some blocks of peas that I did the other day that I would have done in a previous video. So there's the cubes of food. However you decide to thaw these out, whether it's to put it in the fridge and let them thaw on their own. Be cautious if you're going to use a microwave. It doesn't heat evenly, so you really need to stir it all up and make sure that it's evenly heated throughout. Because you don't want to give your baby a spoonful when there's a hot spot in it, or maybe there's a cold spot, and that's going to make them not like the food. So there you go. Happy eating and enjoy. See you next time.